Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look at ways we can work together to help each other in ministry. Today we have Dr. Ron Callaway, who is here with us. He has a bachelor's degree from Welch College, a Master of Divinity degree from Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, and the Doctor of Ministry degree from Mid-American Baptist Theological Seminary. Dr. Callaway has been teaching at Welch College for the last several years, but he served for 25 years as a missionary in Spain, Panama, and Cuba. And so it's so good to have you here with us today, Dr. Callaway.
Thank you for letting me be with you today.
And I understand you're right back from a mission trip to Panama. Is this correct?
Yes, just get back Saturday night. I was there a week teaching an intensive course at the Free Will Baptist Bible Institute in Panama.
So you've been, ever since, even though you stopped being a missionary per se, while you've been here at Welch College, you've continued to do mission trips to Spain, Cuba, or India, I think you went to.
And
once.
we took one group of students to India, yes. Welch College has been very good about letting me teach in different places. In several places we can count the courses we teach there as attending here as well.
Excellent, excellent. And so today you're serving at Welch as the program coordinator for the Intercultural Studies. Tell us a bit about that position, what you do here at Welch College.
Our Intercultural Studies used to be called the Mission Program. We call it Intercultural Studies now. It helps with visas, getting in different countries. Our majors, our students who are majors, take 27 hours extra of mission classes. They have 40 hours of theology and Bible, plus their general education classes. There are classes like Introduction to Missions, History of Missions, Cross-Cultural Communication, Introduction to Christian Cultural Anthropology, church planning, leadership. Sometimes we have people from our Foreign Mission Department who come and teach our classes as well.
That's great. So you're working with students that are going to be involved in international ministry in some way.
In some way or another, yes. That's why they take our courses.
And mostly missionaries, it sounds like.
That's the main emphasis, yes.
So we're out there in churches. Many of us are pastors or lay people. What might we do to help students or help some of the young people and even the older people that we deal with? How can we help them to consider missions as a possibility for their lives?
Well, I think that mission candidates, certain students who want to be missionaries, should come from the local church. The pastors should be looking for those kind of people that think God has His hand upon them. As to older people, which I happen to be one of them, I guess, anymore, people who are retired and still have good health, they can go somewhere for serve a couple years, do different things. They could work in a mission school somewhere. They could go work with ELIC, teaching English as a second language in some countries. There are lots of places they could go. Or they could become involved in the Hannah Project, with our nonprofit organization, which works with IM to work in different countries for 2 weeks, and medical specialties, building specialties, or go for specialties.
So everyone needs to be mission-minded is the way it sounds.
Yeah, it's the mission of God, and the whole church is to be involved in mission. It's not just a unique or set apart different people. Everybody in the church, everyone should be involved in missions.
So maybe I'm watching the news or reading the newspaper, if people still do that. I'm hearing what's happening internationally. I can think about how that impacts people in those particular parts of the world. Think about international students or folks who've moved from different places in the world to where I live, and maybe be thinking of how I might reach them.
Yes. Here in the Nashville area, the statistics show there are at least 89 different people groups who live in the Nashville area. We rub shoulders with them every day. We're not aware of them. One of our students this past summer served her overseas apprentice, which is a 10-week program they serve overseas, was in Hong Kong. And right now, Hong Kong's in the news all the time with the student. In fact, she was there during, I think, the very beginning of those protests. We've had people in many Muslim countries that now have problems, and we need to think about the news of Christians being suffering there. We think of poor Syria and the Christians suffering there. Yes.
So we can think about that, and if we impact someone toward Christ here in the United States, often that can have a ripple effect, and and go back to wherever they're from as well.
Of course.
So your main position, I've noticed over the years, is preparing people, especially young people, that end up being what we might call career missionaries, going to another country, going to a place that's often not had the gospel. Tell us how it is that we can guide students like that toward missions.
Well, our IM program has the E-team, and we have a number of students here at Welch College and Randall and other colleges that have gone on E-teams. And the purpose of that is to try to get them focused into missions. Doesn't always succeed, but that's the purpose of it anyway. The more the church becomes aware of lost people around the world, it makes a difference. I was in Panama last week. The first church where I pastored for a while, the pastor came after me. They picked out an unreached people group and began to pray for it. I noticed Sunday when I was there, the poster is still on the wall. It's been there for a number of years. They keep on praying for the same people group. So churches could adopt unreached people groups, begin to pray for them, begin to think about how to reach them.
Okay, and so you've got young people there in your church. That's really what you saw in Panama.
Yes.
And all through the years, they focused on this unreached people group. And sometimes some of those young folks grow up and sometimes
you never know whether they're going to go there or not.
Could go there.
Yes.
So you also mentioned E-team. So what percentage do you estimate of your students participated in E-team or some mission trip like that?
I should know that. I don't know the percentage. A few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, during chapel, one of our speakers, visiting speakers, was speaking about being involved in other people. He asked the number of students who had been on some sort of a STM, short-term mission trip, to raise their hand or stand up. I can't remember. And about half the student body stood up.
So not just mission students, but
it's
students
lots of
in general.
Yes. We have mission, ICF minors. We have a number of ICF minors, business people, music people, TE people, nursing people who would like to do missions as well.
So if I'm a pastor or a layperson out in my church, I would look to E-team and look for encourage my students to go to that particular program. It's expensive, but well worth it, and something that as a church comes together would be a way to help them, and they may end up going into missions or just being mission-minded, it sounds like. Yeah. And you also mentioned that you've got some college students that are going on short-term trips. Tell us a bit about that.
This coming every spring, the Welch College sponsors a mission trip. This year we have 4 students going with Mr. and Miss Beck going to go to St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, to work with the Christian Church, Free Will Baptist Church, and Free Will Baptist School there. So every year we sponsor a mission trip. Last year, Dr. Ian Hawkins took a group to Colombia. That's not right. Where did they go?
Somewhere in Central America.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The Jungle Kids for Christ, they went there.
Oh, man.
Sometimes our trips get canceled. A couple of years ago, we had a trip going to France, and that was when they have all the problems in Paris, we canceled that trip.
Okay, but still, you guys are trying to take people out and trying to get them to get that exposure.
Our mission students, or our ICS students, between their junior and senior year, are required to spend at least 10 weeks one summer being mentored by missionaries. I think we have 4 students going out this coming summer, and then they'll come back into their senior year and finish here.
So there's another opportunity. You look at some of our state universities, and they'll talk about, hey, you get an international experience, and that's really part of just what happens here at what you guys are doing, trying to get people with that kind of exposure. Well, let's shift gears. You also worked for many years as what we might call a career missionary. And many of us have missionaries come to our churches from time to time. We pray for our missionaries. What are things we might do to help our church to be more mission-minded, and things we might do to provide more support to our missionaries wherever they may be?
I think that when missionaries are in the States and the pastors invite them to the church, it should be more than a one service, how you do, let them preach one time. It should be a time, maybe a weekend, where the people got a chance to actually talk to them. Missionaries like to talk to people. some kind of thing on a Friday night or a Saturday night where they just missionaries can talk and people can ask them questions.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you get to know missionaries, we started raising support in 1976, I think.
Wow.
And when I came to the Welch to teach at Welch, we sent our last prayer letter out saying, "Thank you for giving. You don't have to give anymore." Not to us anyway. And there were a few people on that list had been there since 1976.
Wow.
And I trust they probably still pray for us today. There are people that my wife and I pray for who no longer are missionaries, but once you get in the habit of the custom, praying for people, you do that.
Okay.
You pray for people you know and care about and sort of follow.
Very good. So you're talking about the relationship, giving a missionary an opportunity to develop a relationship with the people in your church. And often we put missionaries up on a pedestal. We think of them as some sort of anomaly, someone that's so different. But then when you get to interact with them, you get to know them, people truly do feel differently and are more likely to pray. And it helps to give as well. Other things that come to your mind about, I'm there, maybe the holidays are coming up, or a missionary's anniversary or birthday is coming up, or there are ways we might support them in that manner as well?
I think so. I don't think you always have to send them a gift. You don't have to give them money. If you do, if you give them a gift, that's all right. But to remember them today with Facebook and Twitter, whatever that is, and you can use all kinds of those things to just send them, "Hey, how you doing? We're thinking about you." That's an encouraging thing to know that there are people. Sometimes it gets lonely on the mission field. Sometimes if some of your fellow missionaries are in the States, for some reason you get lonely by yourself, and get a message from somebody. You can actually still write letters. A letter sometimes means more than a Facebook like or something like that. Yeah. So you can remember people. You can remember their children. You can. There are lots of ways we can help encourage and support missionaries. Yes.
That's good. So. That's something we all need to think about in our churches or wherever we may find ourselves. That think about our missionaries. Look at social media. That's important. But you also heard just liking what they put out there is it might not hurt to send a letter there from time to time as well. So this is good. So it sounds like our world has what I'm hearing from you is there are career missionaries, but there's also business people. There's people that teach English as a second language. There's all kinds of ways that we can get involved in missions today. And so is there anything else you think of on that particular line for us to think about as we're trying to help ourselves become more mission-minded?
I think it's sad that we have so many international students who come to the States to study, and surveys have shown that a very small percent of them ever get invited inside of an American home, and most of them would like to be inside of an American home. If a church is near a university, large university, they could get involved in some sort of teaching English on campus and become friends with them. They could invite students to a hayride or for Thanksgiving. Most I think foreign students know something about Thanksgiving. What does it look like in America? So you can invite somebody to your house. We'd like to separate ourselves at Thanksgiving and just friends, but and family. But we can invite foreign students on campus and get involved in their lives, because the percentage is really small and particularly as Christians, we should be ashamed of that. We should be involved in people's lives. I include myself in that, getting involved in people's lives. And most universities have a time set aside during the week where they get to practice their English. And English is very important in the world of medicine and business, and so to have a chance to speak English is very important. And to meet real Americans outside the classroom is pretty important, I think, as well.
Oh, that's great. So I'm glad you brought that up. I worked in a university in the past, and one of the things I noticed, it seemed like a good percentage of our international students did become believers, and I think that was a big part of it. People having them to their homes, Thanksgiving especially is one that came to mind, and would take them to church, on the weekends. And they may have started with the goal of learning English, but it sounds a lot like what happens with some of our ministries going to other countries. As they're learning English, they're learning the Bible and they're learning the gospel as well. So missions, we want to make sure we're supporting our career missionaries, if you will, those that are going to unreached people groups all throughout the world. But we can't forget we have that responsibility.
We do, right here. It's right here, yeah.
And we have more and more opportunity. Sometimes we complain about people coming from other places, but the Scripture tells us we're to go to them. And
those people in our neighborhood who speak Spanish, the lady who's a mosque, the Islamic lady in Walmart, when you check out, you get in her line to be friendly. You need to go out of our way to be to speak to strangers.
Yes. It's a way for us to be salt and light to them, and who knows, some of them may come to know Him, and it helps us here in the United States, those of us living here, but it also helps people throughout the world. Yeah. Well, you've given us a lot to think about, Dr. Callaway. We appreciate you stopping by to see us today, especially just a week ago you were there in Panama, and now you're probably off to some wonderful college students to teach them. But thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for talking to me. Thank you very much.